Hello again, and if you're new here, hi for the very first time. My name is Lynn, and welcome to my channel. Hello. Today we're going to be reading a Reddit, and I'm in the Creepy Encounters subreddit, r/Creepy Encounters, and we're gonna read some possible ghost or stalker stories and whatever else decides to pop up. I'm gonna start off with this little spooky guy. First story. Someone plays carnival music in our yard late at night. That's creepy. This is going to sound bizarre and made up, but I swear on my left nipple that this happened and there are several witnesses. Even if I can't explain why someone would do this, I'm fairly positive this isn't anything paranormal. Okay, sure. I live quite a distance off the road in an unremarkable house on a private property. My neighbors are all older family members who go to bed extremely early, whose children are already grown and out of the house. In summary, there are no mischief makers to play pranks on us here. A few months ago, my mother and I stayed up late one evening watching television together around 3 a.m. I turned the television off and decided to go to bed. As I was leaving the room, I began to hear what sounded like carnival music playing outside of my house in the front yard. It was loud and close. My mother heard it too and immediately went to the window to investigate. She couldn't see anything but darkness. Everyone else was either asleep or away for the night on vacation. The lights were off in all of their houses, and none of them would be caught dead listening to anything but country music anyway. We were miles from the nearest city, so it wasn't the product of noise pollution. You can hear when a car is pulled up in the yard, but there was no sound of a car. The silence where we live is usually deafening. All you can hear is the ringing in your ears. Where did this song come from? Who was playing it and why? I was very unsettled by the idea of a stranger in our yard playing carnival music, as such suggests malicious intent. My father and uncle later mentioned that 20 years ago, when my parents first moved in, the electrician had come to install a ceiling light and stopped in the middle of his work saying he could hear Pink Floyd playing in the front of my yard. Neither my father nor uncle could hear it. My father is a bit of hard hearing and my uncle is much older, so they laughed it off and thought the man was insane. The electrician was freaked out. He kept opening the door and trying to find the source of the noise to no avail. Then it hit me. The song I heard that night was Pink Floyd's Cyrus Minor, the part that sounds like carnival music. I played the song for my mother and she began freaking out and saying, yes, that's what I heard. Who the hell sits in my yard at night at 3 a.m. in the middle of nowhere playing the same song, which isn't even a popular song, 20 years later with no car? Where did they come from? They would have had to walk several miles to get here. Aside from this, the only other strange thing we experienced that would suggest an intruder we feel and hear knocking on the living room window late at night around the same hour, sometimes so intense that the entire wall of the house is rattled and it sends the couch against it to reclining position. That's weird. There are no nearby trees to tap the glass, and no animals except a human could possibly reach it. Fortunately, this has stopped over the last few weeks. Fortunately. Someone said, this is extremely intriguing and scary. Please update. And the OP responded, so here's an update. My mother left the house to visit the local store late this evening and discovered that someone has been tampering with our electrical box and left it open, possibly having tried but failed to cut the lights of our security system. Cool. Yeah, that's great. Ooh. Okay, I found an update on his profile. I found the update on his profile. All right. Several months ago, I posted about my experience with an unwelcome visitor who knocks on our windows late at night. If you would like to read the post here, blah, 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 blah. This is an update on the situation as many people have requested. Shortly after my first post, I had almost convinced myself our intruder was gone. When I was staying up in the early hours of the morning to finish a bit of homework, I heard a noise in the yard outside my bedroom. I sat there listening, but could only detect something like machinery. It was not the sound that I recognized. I couldn't imagine what was causing the noise unless the air conditioner was misbehaving, but once it had quieted down, I finished working and went to sleep. About 2 nights later, I heard loud grinding around the same hour, but again, could not determine the source. However alarming the volume was. The following morning, my father discovered someone had sabotaged our air conditioning unit by removing a piece of its inner machinery and later throwing it into the fan while it was spinning. effectively destroying its blades and a few other pieces. The part had presumably been taken the first time I was disturbed by the activity in the yard and thrown back in the second time. I had noticed it was only because the outdoor unit is mounted against my bedroom. We initially thought that the piece, and forgive me for my ambiguous language as I'm not very tech savvy, had loosened by itself and broken down, but we called a repairman who begged to differ. He was surprised by the degree of damage and insisted he had never seen it happen naturally, suspecting someone had removed several screws and tampered with the unit. He thought my father had attempted to work on it and cause the trouble, but of course he had not. A few days after the damaged parts have been replaced, my mother was leaving for a doctor's appointment when she began yelling and called the family into the yard. Our electric box had been opened in the night and left ajar as if someone had been trying to find a wire to cut our electricity or disable a suspected indoor security system. We had been outside several times since the repairman finished his work, and we are certain he closed the electric box if he ever opened it. We have weathered several severe hurricanes here, and winds are not strong enough to open our electric box. A person had to have done it. Weeks passed without incident, my parents opting to overlook these concerning happenings. Why? Call the police. My father tried to explain the air conditioner as a freak occurrence. They purchased a new gun and did little else. Cool. Towards the beginning of the summer, my grandfather mentioned that a couple weeks prior when we were on vacation, he'd seen a red Jeep drive the lengthy distance from the road through a private property to our house in broad daylight. He didn't recognize the driver, but approached and questioned him. The man claimed he was looking for a woman that lived in the trailer. The person he claimed he was looking for had the name of a family friend that lives hours away from us. The man was behaving strangely, and my grandfather was not convinced by his story. He ordered him to leave immediately. Our family that lives around us on the farm is reinforcing their doors, installing extra locks, and keeping their children out of their yards until we find out what's going on. They won't even let them walk home from the bus stop anymore. I had stopped worrying over it as much because I've been preoccupied with moving to a new state, but the old knocking returned this evening at 10 p.m. My parents were watching television together when they heard it. They turned on the porch light and peered out of the peephole and to the back door to investigate, but saw no one, of course. 3 a.m., I was awake watching TV when it sounded as if someone was forcefully punching the glass of the usual exposed window. I covered it with a blanket as I always do. An hour after I covered the window, I began to hear loud noises from our back door porch off of the kitchen, as if someone had stepped onto it. However, it was briefly lived. They apparently weren't walking around, but simply standing there. About 10 minutes after, I heard yet more knocking, except this time it was on the exposed living room window, but further down the wall, the window is on next to the couch. It was 3 knocks, forceful enough to rattle the wall, but not so much that the couch moved. This is more alarming because it suggests the trespasser lingers here for several hours at a time, posing many questions. Are we being watched for an opportunity to force entry? Hasn't the opportunity already risen and passed and they never took it? Are we being stalked? Do they gather here to drink and get high on the property and then decide in their stupor it will be funny to antagonize us? Why is it only our house that is targeted and not the other houses on the farm? Why do they walk several miles to come here? Their behavior is escalating. Will they eventually take things further? I woke my mother and we sat awake together until the sun rose to keep watch. We compiled a list of happenings here and that suggests our trespasser visits more frequently than they knock. Despite no one in the family smoking and anyone who does smoke living too far away for us to smell it, we often deal with the strong scent of cigarette around the windows. My mother and I are going to walk around the perimeter of the house in the morning to look for cigarette butts, and we'll try convincing my father we at least need security cameras outside, even though I think we should involve the police at this point. He's been too indifferent to everything that has happened, and it makes it challenging to be proactive about it. Is your dad dumb? If I heard knocking and shit in the windows, I'd have a camera installed next day. I'd have police called already. Oh, they did mention smelling a fresh perm aroma. And someone in the comments deals with they work closely with law enforcement. And apparently that cigarette smell and a strong fresh perm aroma is likely crystal meth. Someone's theory, these people are more than likely cooking crystal meth somewhere off of your property in an RV. What is this, Breaking Bad? Okay, this OP's family doesn't care about him. His dad's like, you're moving out soon. What do you care? Maybe if you didn't stay up so late, they wouldn't mess with us. All right, throw your dad in the trash. I don't see any other update except for all that. So no explanation on what was happening at all. Just even more questions. Story number 2. I think a coworker is stalking me. It started with small talk. Now I see him outside my dance studio. I work in a male-dominated tech firm, mostly multinational. For the first few months, I kept to myself. I didn't even learn most of their names. I used the language barrier as a shield, and the truth is, I don't like socializing at work, especially not with men. I'm there to work, focus, and go home. Amen, sister. Since April, something has been escalating with a coworker, and it's now following me outside of work. I try to downplay it, but my anxiety is killing me. One guy started small talk with me, said he wanted to practice English. I was polite, gave short answers. He asked basic things like my favorite food. I said I like pancakes and burgers. A few days later, he came back and said another coworker wanted to take me to a pancake shop. I said no. The second guy started talking to me directly. He's only been working with us for about 6 months, but because of his role, he's basically my senior. He's tall, broad shoulders, over a head taller than me. He moves slowly, watches before speaking, and always carries himself like he's in control. Freaky. Whenever he asked me to do something, he'd say, "See? Good girl." You? Then he started asking personal questions, where I eat, who I eat with, if I go alone, if it's with a man. I gave vague answers. Nobody asked that. Do you eat alone? Do you eat alone? Nobody asked that. Eventually, I said I had a boyfriend just to try and make it stop, even though I don't have one. Then when he said, if you really have a boyfriend, prove it. Call him now. What the hell? Okay. I had no one to call. Then came the comments, you're so tiny. You should sit on me. I could lift you like nothing. What? Freak? This guy is pissing me off. He said things like they were jokes. He always said, sorry, maybe that sounds different in Russian. No. I'm pretty sure it'd sound just as horrible. Then came the worst moment so far. There are 2 other women in our office. One afternoon, while we were all in the same area, he pointed right at me and said, this one's my favorite body type. Then he made quick thrusting motion with his hips. Some of the men laughed, not nervously, just like it was a good joke. The woman went silent. You should have talked to HR when he started making the comments of, you're so tiny, you should sit on me. Anyways, then it escalated after work. I was alone on the platform waiting for a train. He walked up to me, placed one hand around my waist, low across my stomach. It wasn't a brush, it was a hold. He leaned in and said, see, so tiny. I was infuriated and said, what the fuck? Don't ever touch me again. He smirked, shrugged off, and walked away like, you know what I would do? I'd punch that dude. I'd back up and kick him in the fucking head. You're not waking up. 2 days later, I got a follow request on Instagram from him. My account is private. The username isn't connected to my real name. It's just a scrolling account with nothing on it. I don't know how he found it. I also started seeing him outside my dance studio, at the smoothie shop I go to, and near the bus station that I use when I go shopping after class. Multiple days a week, he's walked around the area, but mostly across the entrance of my studio. He's never said anything. He just stood there and waited like it was normal, like we were friends. We're not. There's no reason he should be there. The studio is 30 minutes away from our office. I've never posted about it, never mentioned it. No one at work even knows I dance. It's just a place it's not a place you just happen to be, but somehow he keeps showing up. When I brought it up, he acted like I'm the one being strange. Yeah, as per usual. These guys, they'll do creepy shit and then they'll pretend that you're a freaking weirdo. This pisses me off. Last Friday, I passed him near the side exit of our office. I didn't say anything. I just kept walking. He said, you can ignore me now, but we'll talk soon. He didn't wait for a reaction. He just kept walking. But it gave me the chills and I was so creeped out. What does that even mean? I need advice or maybe just someone to say I'm overreacting. I haven't reported him yet. I'm scared I won't be taken seriously, but I've started writing everything down. Every comment, every time I've seen him, every place he's shown up. It's all happening so fast and I feel sick with dread. I don't know what to do. I just need to say it somewhere. That's really sad that she's trying to convince herself that she's overreacting. You're not, by the way. You're not overreacting. All of that is BS. No one should be doing that to you. document time, dates, what he says, who was there, videotape him if he's near your home or dance studio, try to video record him even at work, check with lawyer, get cameras, more door locks, send HR emails so they have a record, go to the police now and tell them everything. They will not do anything, but you'll have it on record. Yeah, you need record of this. You can't just excuse it. This is how people die. This is how people get like murked. This is how people get murdered. You know, definitely not overreacting. The behavior and comments at work alone are enough to file a sexual harassment complaint. The other stuff is creeping up on a restraining order territory. I hope that person's okay, considering that post was from a month ago and she's still posting as of a couple days ago. All right, last story. I found out my neighbor was living in my attic for months. So I guess the wildest thing I've ever experienced happened last year, and I still don't know how to explain it without sounding like I'm making it up. But here it goes. It just started with these little things going missing. I live alone in a pretty quiet neighborhood, so I figured I'm just forgetful. A protein bar here, a sock there, whatever. Then my TV would be on a different input than I left it. Nothing huge, just enough to make me second guess myself. The weirdest part, I'd hear these faint bumps in the ceiling sometimes. I chalked it up to raccoons or whatever. My house is old, stuff creaks. But then one night I came home late from work and I can swear I saw a shadow move past the vent opening in the hallway ceiling. I told myself I was tired, imagination, but I couldn't shake this feeling. So I set up one of those cheap motion sensor cameras I bought off of Amazon, pointed it straight at the attic access panel in the hallway. 2 nights later, I got a notification at 2:17 a.m. Motion detected. I opened the clip. My stomach dropped. There was a person climbing down from the attic, like full on, quietly stepping down the ladder, looking around and heading into my kitchen. I froze. That's horrible. I don't even want to think about that. I was in the house at the time the clip was taken. I called the cops immediately, locked myself in my room with a bat, freaking out while they did a full sweep. They found no one at first, but when they checked the attic, there was a little setup there. A sleeping bag, snacks, a small camping stove, empty water bottles. Someone had clearly been living up there. The person was my neighbor's grown son, who apparently had some drug issues and got kicked out a while back. He broke in when I was on vacation a few months earlier and just never left. He'd sneak down at night to grab food or watch TV. He got arrested. I moved out 3 weeks later. I still have trouble sleeping in total silence because now every creak makes me think someone's crawling around above me. That's horrible. That's creepy. How do people break into your house and just go into the attic? Months? That's horrible. I remember reading a story. If I ever find it, I'll read it on here. It was, I guess, a story from when this kid was younger. He thought his brother was like seeing a ghost or something, where he was just like, yeah, the creepy man's in the hallway. He mentioned a creepy man in the hallway that he's seen before, and like his family brushed it off as if he was like, I don't know, seeing an imaginary person. One day, I guess their mom just calls the cops or something, and there's just a guy living in their attic. It was the kid that everybody thought saw a ghost. It was just a freaking guy in the attic. I'm looking at my ceiling like right now. I'm a freak. Nobody's in my attic. It's too hot in Florida to be up there. Oh my God. One of the comments. In the 80s, my friend's neighbor was convinced someone was living in her attic. They had the police out. They stuck their head up there with a flashlight and gave it the all clear. She called the police 2 days later, stating that there was definite footsteps. Please come. Police told her family she was imagining it. The family disagreed as they heard it too. The police did the same attic peek and left. 2 days after that, the woman was dead. Finally, the police went into the attic and found the guy in his camp set up in her attic. He stabbed her with her own kitchen knife. It was terrible and could have been avoided. In the 80s, someone living in your attic was unheard of. Today, not so much, but it's a serious thing. Holy cow. I don't know. I much prefer the ghost stories than stories of people living in your attic. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Like, comment, subscribe. If you've stuck around in this video, I'd appreciate if you at least just give me a view over there on Twitch. My Twitch link is in the description. All right. Have a good whatever day it is you're listening. Bye-bye.